All right, today we're going to be looking at how to tell if the golf grips you bought are real or fake. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a wonderful day. So I've had a number of people come into the shop recently bringing me grips to install, and well, quite frankly, a bunch of these grips have been counterfeit. They've been fake, Golf Pride MCC style grips. Now, this is, I will just go ahead and tell you, this is probably the most likely candidate to be counterfeited because one, it's very popular. Two, it's very recognizable, so you see it on TV, which again adds to the popularity when you see a Rory McIlroy or whoever using a grip like this. And third, it's an expensive grip, right? These grips are going to run you, say, anywhere from $12 to $14 a grip. So all of those things line up to be a counterfeiter's kind of dream setup for something to copy. All right, I've got a selection of grips here. Some of these are real Golf Pride MCCs and some of these are counterfeit. Okay, so first off, what we're going to be looking for is what I want you to look at right here on this grip, and this is a real, authentic Golf Pride MCC grip. What I want you to look for here is this edge basically between the top half of the grip and the bottom half of the grip. And what I want you to notice as I move in real close is you do not notice any sort of joint, any sort of seam of any kind, right? Everything is nice and smooth. Everything looks very uniform. When I take that now and compare it to this grip, what you are noticing very quickly, I think, is this line. You can see it very clearly. Again, I'll put them up side by side. Here on top is what is the real grip, and what is underneath is the fake, is the counterfeit. And you can see with that counterfeit, this line basically between the two sides of the grip that were glued together. Okay, next up, when we're looking at the real MCC style grips, what I want you to focus on are these little rings up here, these little lines up here at the top that you're going to find on all the MCC grips. You're going to find them on Tour Velvets as well. But what I want you to notice is, and again, this is the real grip, notice how these lines basically line up on both sides of this little space right here. Look at another one here. This is again a real MCC grip, and you see, look how close, look how well lined up these little sight lines are here at the very top. Let's compare that now with one of the counterfeit grips, and hopefully you can see here we've got a much more obvious discrepancy in how these lines meet. This is very clearly not the same as those first two grips I showed you. These lines on this side much further down the grip versus the lines on this side. Also notice there is also a paint thickness discrepancy here. And paint thickness is another way, or just the overall paint job that's done on the grip, that will sometimes tell you a fake from a real. The good ones are going to be really close on the paint. The bad ones are going to be much more obvious. These are pretty good, but you can see a slight variation in the thickness of the paint. But what is more obvious is just these lines do not match up on the two sides. Okay, third way to tell from looking at them between a real, authentic Golf Pride grip and a fake is I want you to look at the very tip end here, at the very edge. And what you're going to notice is on a real grip, and I'm going to put my hand behind it so you can see, look how nice and flat and even the top is. Perfectly flat. I'm going to show you another one. Again, here's the real MCC Align, and you can see again nice and flat at the top. Now let's compare that to one of these not real, one of these counterfeit grips. And what you see here is when I put my hand up behind it, look at that kind of indentation. Look at that sort of concave shape right here when we look at it. Again, basically it's the seam, it's that joint between the two halves, and you can see the seam here, or the point where they connect, kind of is shorter than the top and bottom edges. So in a real authentic Golf Pride grip, you are not going to see this. It's going to be nice and even and smooth on the top. On a fake, you're going to see some variation, some version of this. Now, some of them will be better. This one's definitely a little more aggressive. If I take this one, which is also fake, it's not nearly as bad as that first one. It has a little bit, but it's much smoother. But again, if you buy a set of these, chances are at least a quarter to a half of them are going to show you some kind of discrepancy or some kind of inconsistency in this top lip. Okay, now next up is the feel of the grips. Now obviously this is going to be hard to do unless you actually have a real grip to compare against the counterfeit grip. First off is going to be the firmness. You are usually going to be able to tell a difference in the firmness. 9 times out of 10, the fake grip, the counterfeit grip, is going to be harder. It's going to be firmer than the real authentic grip. So if I squeeze this real MCC Plus 4 grip, it has a good amount of give to it down here on the non-corded section. When I compare that to the counterfeit grip, this is a much firmer rubber. It is much harder, noticeably harder than the real MCC grip. Now the other thing when we're talking about feel, and this could also go into the looks, but we want to really focus on this cord in the real one versus the fake one. And what you're going to notice is in the real MCC grips, the cord is much more refined. It's kind of deeper into the rubber. You can see it's less substantial and it's more understated. In the fake, what you notice is that cord is very obvious. It's very close to the surface. When you rub your fingers over it, you can definitely feel a lot more of that cord there versus in the real MCC grip. It just feels a little bit more understated. It feels a little bit more, again, it feels a little more refined. And again, if we're looking at them side by side and you know what you're looking for, again, you can see here we have the real grip and here we have the fake grip. And you can see just, again, looking at the quality of how that cord was actually installed becomes pretty obvious. Now the last way to tell, and maybe this is the easiest way to tell that you're buying a counterfeit grip, is going to be the price. The real authentic Golf Pride MCC style grips basically stay at about that standard price all the time. That $12 to $14 range per grip, that's going to be kind of what they are. So unless you find them on the actual Golf Pride website or on an actual dealer website with some sort of sale, you're going to usually be paying that full price. If you find them on eBay, if you find them on Facebook Marketplace, if you find them on any of those sort of secondary sellers sites at some questionable price, I'm going to go ahead and say that the likelihood is very, very high that what you're buying is a counterfeit grip. All right, hopefully this will help you figure out whether the grips you've bought online are the real deal or if they're counterfeit. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you go down below, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you'll be alerted when I post new videos. If you're interested in a fitting, in a custom build, in a repair, all my contact information is down below, and I'll see you on the next video.